Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm going to review the Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundations and concealers. I've been using the foundation since it first came out. I want to say last year. I bought it at Sephora right away. The old formula, the HD, was my holy grail, absolute favorite foundation, and I've been using that one for years and it was just my favorite thing. So when they changed it, I was a little bit skeptical at first. This is the shade that I like to use. It's called R220. It's equivalent to the old 110 in the HD line, the old one. So if you used to use the HD, you should be able to find your new shade. It says on the bottom here, like the old shade, it says 110 equals R220. So in case you want to get a newer formula, it should be easy to kind of match your old shade. And if you don't know what your shade is, I would recommend going to Sephora and having them shade match you, because you can try a sample before you buy it, because that's what I actually did. I was a bit skeptical about this when I first bought it at Sephora, and even though it said it would equal the 110, I was just like, I don't know if I want to buy it right away. So I got a sample of it and I tried it on and I loved it. And this I actually prefer over the old formula. This is much lighter. I know the old one was light too, but for me this feels more weightless and it just kind of looks more like skin to me, and I also feel like this shade matches me a lot better than the old one did. So I like to apply this with the brush first. This is my Morphe M439 brush. I love this and it works very nicely with this foundation. The Ultra HD is quite liquidy. What I like to do is just take my time with this. It is kind of a liquidy foundation. It's actually very liquidy, and I don't feel like it dries right away once you put it on the skin. So you can kind of take your time blending it out. So don't be afraid, you know. It doesn't dry right away. I mean, you guys can see it's pretty wet and you don't have to worry about, you know, oh, I gotta hurry up and blend it, it's gonna dry. It doesn't do that. At least for me, I feel like it's very liquidy. So this is just, I would say, one even layer, and it looks very natural. And I didn't really put any on my eyes because usually I like to go in with concealer. So as you can see here, it's not covering up everything. You can still see my freckles, you can still see my under eyes, you can even still see a little bit of my breakouts I have down here. So one layer isn't going to cover everything. This is more of the natural side of this foundation. It can look so natural. When I wear my makeup, especially from a day-to-day basis, I go to this foundation just because I like how it looks. I feel like it's definitely nice for every day. I use this for everything. So I am going to layer just a bit more. I'm not going to take a full pump of this, but I will take just about half and show you guys that you can kind of build this up a little bit. And I'm just going to layer it on the places where I'm going to show you that you can get more full coverage. Normally for me, I don't even wear foundation like every day, but you know, I just want to show you guys you can really work with this foundation. So I didn't even use that whole pump. But I like to, when I build up this foundation, I like to use my beauty blender because I feel like it doesn't you know, move the foundation too much. The brush works when I first apply it, but when I want to build up the coverage, I really go for the beauty blender just because I feel like it's easier to build coverage with. I can tell now, but we're definitely getting more coverage here. It's starting to cover up my breakouts a bit more, and it's definitely starting to cover up my under eyes, which is great. But it won't cover your freckles altogether. Like, it still looks very natural. It doesn't cover up every single piece of your skin, you know. It doesn't look like you have heavy makeup on. I personally really like the coverage right here. I would stop here. You can layer it even more if you want to, but personally, if you want it to have that kind of more skin-like feel, I would say just stop at 2 layers. So I'm really happy with this. I'm going to stop here, but I'm also going to just do another step here with my beauty blender with the bottom part. I just like to make sure that everything is nice and blended onto my skin. And I do have dry skin, so normally I don't really powder this foundation, but that's just my skin. If you have normal to oily skin, or if it's very hot where you live, you would definitely want to add a powder maybe in your T-zone. If you are very oily, I don't know if this would work for you because this is definitely a liquidy foundation that I feel is almost a bit moisturizing for my skin. So if it's moisturizing for me, it might be too much for oily skin. The reason why I love this so much is because not only the shade, but because it doesn't accentuate my dry patches because of how wet it is. So that's why I really like the way it kind of gives my skin a bit of luminosity, a bit of shine to it. I like to go in with my concealer. This is the time that I like to do it, just because in case I have like anything, any little imperfections that fell down from the shadow, I like to wipe it off and then just kind of brighten it up with the concealer. And I have two here that I like to use from this line. This one is a Y21 and it is a little bit too light, but I do like to mix it in with foundations or anything else, so I just keep this one on hand. But R20 is the one that is my shade. It kind of comes out in a little squeezy tube here, and I just take the smallest drop. That's probably even too much because this concealer is very, very full coverage, but the cool thing about it is that it doesn't feel like it's cakey. It doesn't have a thick texture. It still has a very, very light and airy texture to it. It almost kind of feels like you don't even have any concealer on, which is great because concealer for me can like make or break my face, really, which is why most of the time I don't even wear concealer from a day-to-day basis anyway, because, you know, I don't want to look like I have dry skin even more than I already have. So I'm just going to take that small amount and blend it out with this Real Techniques brush here. And then once I've placed it, I just like to kind of use my beauty blender to really blend it onto my skin. And you don't have to use a beauty blender if you don't want to, but I personally think this concealer looks the best on my skin and it looks the most natural once I have kind of done this step. When I just use my brush, I feel like it does look a bit more detectable. So even though this is a very lightweight concealer, it still needs a powder, just because if you don't powder this, it's definitely going to settle into your lines. So especially if you're using it under your eyes, you're just going to want to give it a quick little set here. So that's all I use. I don't put on powder on my whole face. So that's the only powder I'm going to add, just because I want to show you how this foundation lasts for me during my day. I'm not going to add powder anywhere that I put the foundation. I just put powder where I had that concealer. Alright, so here's my finished face. I will check back in at the end of my day and see how the foundation and concealer looks. Normally I don't have any issues with it. If it's very, very hot, then I do expect my T-zone to kind of break down, but I didn't powder or set my foundation, and you can see that it has dried now. It doesn't look as shiny as it first did. Normally my foundation lasts all day long for me, no problem. Usually my day is like at least 7-8 hours long, so I don't touch up my makeup. I'm not going to touch it up at all. Hey guys, I'm back. It is about 5 o'clock, a little bit past 5 o'clock, towards the end of my day, and I just wanted to do like a quick spot check in natural light before I go to my desk with my ring light, because I want you to see like what it looks like in real life. So this is my light right now. I mean, it is the end of the day. I'll open my blinds a little bit more so you can maybe see a bit better here, but it's pretty, you know, I think it held up pretty well, and considering it was so hot today, I want to say it was in the upper 80s. I am just so happy with this foundation, and this is why I choose to wear this one pretty much every time I wear makeup, just because look at the shade match in the natural light first off, because it is so hard for me to find foundations that match drugstore and high-end, and I'm just so happy with this. This is my neck. I didn't put any foundation here at all, so this is my natural color and this is the foundation. I mean, I'm just so happy with that. I do have a little bit of breakdown right in here. This is my problem area. Pretty much any foundation tends to break down, at least on me, at the end of my day around my nose. And don't forget, I don't have any primer on. I only put on moisturizer before I put this foundation, and I also didn't use any setting spray, so I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, I can't complain, and the only thing I think wore off badly was my brow makeup, and if I were to use setting spray, that definitely wouldn't have happened. So, I mean, I was sweating today. It was hot, so I'm impressed that my mascara didn't run either, because I'm testing out a new mascara today, but it didn't even run, so we're good, you know? I mean, I can't complain about this. I'm really happy with it. The only thing, I mean, the concealer did kind of bunch up in my lines a bit here. You can see, you know, the wear and I hope you can see a better feel of it in the natural light. I'm 23. I got a new message, and here I am back at my desk in front of my light. You can see the difference between the light and the natural light. I've been wearing this foundation ever since it came out right away. I knew I had to get it and try it, and I loved it back then, and the more I wear it, the more I just fall in love with this foundation for my skin. I have dry skin, so this has a bit of moisture to it. It's definitely a liquidy foundation that kind of gives your skin a bit of a glow if you don't powder it like I didn't. You know, I wanted to show you guys how I personally wear it. Of course, you can make it look more matte if you powder it. I am so happy that I have a foundation that matches my skin tone, because that is so hard for me to find, not just drugstore, but high-end as well. It's so hard to find shades that match me straight from the bottle. So I really appreciate their shade range. Makeup Forever has a great shade range, 40 shades. Not a lot of brands can say that. So for me, that is a huge deal. The other reason I love it, it feels so lightweight. It doesn't feel like you have a bunch of makeup on. It doesn't even look like you have makeup on when you wear it lightly. Of course, I have it built up today, but I showed you guys earlier in the video what it looked like with just one pump and just one very light layer. It looks so natural, and I've worn this so many times in person, and I've had people tell me they didn't think I had any like foundation on, they didn't think I had makeup on. This is a really great foundation for people who like to control the amount of coverage they have. This is not going to be full coverage right off the bat. It is definitely more of a buildable foundation. I would say you can get full coverage, of course, especially if you're going to wear concealer with it. I just really like this. It works so well for me. And for the concealer, I have to say that I really like the texture of this. I do think that they have some nice shades in here, but I don't believe they have as many shades in the concealer as they do for the foundation line. But this is also a newer product. I believe it just launched not too long ago. For me, this concealer isn't the longest lasting. I feel like I have tried ones that last better on me. For example, the Urban Decay Naked Skin Concealer. That stuff is just A+. I really, really love that. And this concealer is definitely not bad. I mean, the shade is awesome. I really like the coverage on it. But for me, this is not the ideal under eye concealer, just because it does settle into my lines a bit. I'm not quite sure what it is about the texture on this, but I feel like it looks so nice once it's freshly applied. It looks flawless, beautiful, you know, undetectable, all those great things. But then once I wear it during my day, it just doesn't look the same. And, you know, a lot of concealers do that. It's not that this is like a horrible product. I just don't feel like it works for my skin type. I have very dry skin. It's hard enough to find a concealer that doesn't accentuate that. And for me, it's the Urban Decay Naked Skin, hands down. I love that one. So I'm not too sure who I would recommend this to. Maybe people who have normal or oilier skin might like this. I hope you found this review helpful. Let me know in the comments if you're thinking about trying one of these. I've been getting a lot of requests to review both of these products lately, and I used this in a Get Ready With Me, and I loved it. I mean, it's just so nice when it's freshly applied, but for some reason on my skin at the end of the day, or even after a few hours, I just feel like it starts to look so dry. So for me personally, this just didn't work out, and I wouldn't recommend it to people who have dry skin. It just doesn't work for my skin. So that's really all I have to say about it, but I do recommend this. I adore this foundation, I really do. And you guys, if you've been watching my videos, this is pretty much all I use when it comes to foundation, so I hope this was helpful to you all. And as always, thank you so much for watching.